Yes, we cover basketball around these parts. Usually it's NCAA action. Typically it's the NBA and the playoffs. But boy, we got to focus. We got to get right here for the WNBA season, which takes place all summer long. And quite frankly, has been some very good betting markets so far. It's Sonny Rightside,
Great
Ben
stuff,
Stevens,
yeah.
the two foremost handicappers on this network, which now includes and features WNBA action, which last night saw the Sun on the road improve to 3-0 with an 88-84 victory over the Fever, who dropped to 0-4. Caitlin Clark getting better with each performance. Pops was in the stands yesterday, not happy with the loss, but we're getting closer and closer, it seems like, to that Fever's first win here, Ben.
Listen, Indiana is starting to figure some things out. We'll talk about the Fever in just a moment and make the point that we shared just a week ago with all the hype and optimism around Caitlin Clark's WNBA debut, the start of this W season, just a week old, and what the outlook is for Indiana. But we go to Connecticut, who the Fever have played twice. They've also played the Liberty twice. New York made the WNBA Finals, coming up short against the Aces. Connecticut was the only other team to win more than 25 games last year. That was the Sun. It has been a grueling start to this season for Indiana. Home and home virtually versus Connecticut and New York. So yes, being 0-4 does not look great from the win-loss perspective, but it does explain the start to this year. And the Sun are going to be back to that pantheon of which we saw them at last year, especially if Alyssa Thomas and Tawana Bonner continue to play the way they are right now. Bonner, 22 points last night, a clutch go-ahead bucket late. That was the game-winning shot for Connecticut. And Alyssa Thomas is the do-it-all each and every game. 1 assist shy of her second triple-double of this season already, both coming perhaps against Indiana. But again, only 9 dimes last night. Did finish with a game-high 24 points and 14 rebounds, playing 40 minutes for the Sun last night. Connecticut is very, very good. But they were a 6-point favorite on the road in Indiana. The Fever cover that number. A total of 163.5 does go over because the Fever are starting to find their footing. And that is also a storyline here for Indiana, DRS. They have now covered in 2 straight games against New York and Connecticut, despite dropping their first 4 to start this year. It was going to take some time in Indianapolis, but the Fever are starting to round into form ever so slightly.
Yeah, and by the way, take a look at the game yesterday. In typical, you know me, Ben, I love a good box score. 40% on the road shooting for the Connecticut Sun. The Indiana Fever at home, 48%. 3-point shooting on the road for the Sun, 21%. At home for the Fever, 30%. Free throw shooting, 80% on one side, 92% on the other side. But again, 24 of 30 for 80%, much better than 12 of 13 for 92.2%. But the focus, as always, is going to be on Caitlin Clark. 27 minutes played, 5 of 11 from the field, which included 3 of 7 from three-point land, 3 boards, 5 assists, and 5 turnovers, and minus 18 in that game, and 17 total points. So as we look at her seasonal averages here, 17, 5.5, 4, but averaging 6.5 turnovers per game, that's going to have to get a little bit lower. But I do think if
Correct.
you're watching the game-by-game process for both her and also her team, you can see it starting to come together. There's no more butterflies out there. Oh, this is my first professional game going up against quality basketball teams. I believe those numbers will get even more efficient as we go, and also the wins will start to come for the Fever. In your opinion, looking at Caitlin Clark, and again, it's a short sample size, from game 1 to game 4, what have we seen in your eyes, Ben?
We have seen Caitlin Clark start to play more like Caitlin Clark in her ability in this Indiana offense to orchestrate things. There have been some confusion, I think, that has led to some of these turnovers. We saw it on display last night. I even tweeted it out. Part of the bread and butter of what Caitlin Clark does better than anybody else in women's basketball, at least at the collegiate level, is lead in transition. And the bigs at Iowa would get out and run, understanding how their point guard likes to play. There has been that adjustment period now for the Fever, leading to some of those turnovers. Her role in this offense starting to pick up as well. We got a report from ESPN's Holly Rowe, who was the sideline reporter last night in Indy, saying that she spoke to Caitlin prior to this game last night against the Sun. And Caitlin said in the first few games of her WNBA career, she was feeling things out. She wanted to be respectful of her teammates who had been in that franchise and the organization for longer. Ahead of game number 3 against New York in Brooklyn on Saturday, She just started to play like herself again, and you see those results. Only 27 minutes last night because of an injury to her ankle that she suffered late in the opening half. Of course, she did return, but 17 points, hit 3 threes. She is going to continue to fire from deep. And Donnie, I said this about Indiana overall. Caitlin Clark will be fine. The Fever will be fine. They have started their season, all 4 games, against the second and third best teams in the WNBA a season ago. Indiana entering this year, 7 consecutive seasons of a losing record. Only twice in that 7-season span had the Fever even won double-digit regular season games. So the expectation that they're a surefire 20-win team in this 40-game WNBA season, or they are going to be one of the top 8 to make the playoffs, large and lofty expectations for a team in Indy that has not seen that level of success in a very long time. Once the Fever's schedule starts to slow down ever so slightly, that's when we'll get a true picture of what Indiana and Caitlin Clark are able to accomplish this season.
We had a doubleheader last night in the WNBA. Second game of that doubleheader was the Storm and the Liberty. The Liberty improved to 4-0 in a lower scoring tilt, 74-63 over the Storm, who dropped them to 1-3. Brianna Stewart in that game, 16 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 assists. The Liberty looks like they're back on course here for yet a possible run at a WNBA championship.
Yeah, Sabrina Ionescu, great last night as well, 20 points and 8 dimes. And Jonquel Jones has been a revelation, one of the key additions to this New York team that really highlights what they can do in the front court alongside Stewie. She is the vet. 28 minutes last night, 16 points and 8 rebounds as well. So the Liberty off to a perfect 4-0 start, but they were a 13-point favorite, did not cover. Total of 166, stays well under. New York hasn't covered in 3 of their first 4 games yet, despite the perfect 4-0 start. The Libs are going to be just fine. I think the story actually, Donnie, is with the Storm. Seattle has the 3rd best price to win the WNBA championship, well behind both the Aces and the Liberty at this moment. But Seattle was supposed to be a team that really elevated its game this offseason. Not only the NBA's leading scorer in Jewel Lloyd, but they add Skylar Diggins-Smith and Nneka Ogwumike. It's been a slow start for Seattle, and their lottery draft pick in Nika Mule, an outstanding defender from Connecticut, due to visa issues, hasn't played just yet, or maybe last night was her debut for Seattle. No, she was not in the lineup last night. So a slow start for Seattle to figure things out, which leads the RS to the WNBA title odds, where it's still the Aces and the Liberty. Las Vegas off to a perfect start, 60 cents in front of New York. Really, for me, there's that tier of 2, but I think it's Las Vegas and everybody else, New York even behind, as you start to look at those WNBA championship odds. And I would still put Connecticut in front of Seattle. The Sun look great. Alyssa Thomas playing at an elite level, and Tawana Bonner continues to score. I put Connecticut in front of Seattle.
And by the way, take a look at the MVP odds. We used to see in the top 3 there, Caitlin Clark at around an 11-1 or so price. Now we see Wilson, Thomas, and Stewart as the new top 3. Look, it was always protecting themselves through the sports books a la Tiger Woods in a PGA championship where people are always going to bet that point. But now we're seeing the superstars rise to the occasion. Wilson at a minus 110 price after just a few games into the season. That's pretty incredible.
Absolutely so. And A'ja Wilson was the rightful WNBA MVP favorite, as we shared, by the way, the Las Vegas Aces and A'ja Wilson, a 14.5-point home favorite tonight against the Phoenix Mercury with a total of 173.5. Difficult place to play and win, DRS, to walk out with a victory if you're the road team inside the Michelob Ultra Arena on the Strip in Sin City.